It's me, Mario!
What's up guys? I'm SeanRaider and welcome to my Super Mario 64 speedrun guide. This is the second part in this series. The first goes over setup options and technical knowledge that's invaluable to have before you start running. I'll leave a link to it at the top of the description. In this video, I'll be going over all the basic movement options and many of their more advanced applications. Please use the timestamps in the description if you want to skip to a specific part. Any resources I reference will also be down there. Starting off, we have the single jump. In certain parts of the run, it's alright to use many of these in a row as a beginner, but typically they're used as a setup for other movement. A special thing to note about the single jump, double jump, and wall jump is that they all go higher the longer you hold the A button. These three are the only jumps that have this property, so you can simply tap A for any other jump. The single and double jumps also go higher the faster you're moving, so sometimes you'll have to be moving at a certain speed to get enough height. A double jump is performed by pressing A as you hit the ground after falling. This doesn't work from special falling states such as after a long jump, double jump, triple jump, or dive, but it does work with single jumps, kicks, side flips, falling off a platform, and wall jumps. Many new players assume they should start a double or triple jump with a single jump, but in reality this is quite rare. In a speedrun, you want to cut out as much of the downtime as possible, so performing a double or triple jump with a lengthy setup is suboptimal. A kick is the most common, but you can even cut out the setup jump entirely by walking over a small gap. This counts as you leaving the ground for a split second and allows you to double jump as soon as you hit the other side. A triple jump can only be performed after landing from a double jump with a moderate amount of speed. This is the highest jump you can do and is the only way to reach certain objectives. In some situations, you'll need the absolute max height you can get, but you'll have to execute a triple jump close to a wall. In these situations, you'll need to stop holding forward for a little after executing the triple, or you'll just hit the wall before it peaks. Some people hold sideways, while others will hold neutral. Just remember to hold forward again near the peak, or you won't have enough speed to wall jump. Keep in mind that you only need speed to start the triple. You can do whatever you want once you're in the air. Triple jumps also have the unique ability to be done on a slope, even fairly steep ones. This is important when it comes to ascending slopes fast. Another important thing to note is that you can't grab ledges after a triple jump normally. The only way to get around this is to wall jump after the triple, then pull back towards the ledge. A long jump is performed by pressing Z a very short period of time before A, and can only be done while moving at a certain speed. This is the best way to accelerate from a standstill, so you'll see people doing them most of the time as they enter a stage. By holding down the crouch button and pressing A as you hit the ground, you can chain together long jumps even if you don't maintain your speed. In this way, long jumps are also part of the most infamous trick in SM64, the backwards long jump, or BLJ. By long jumping backwards up a slope, set of stairs, or rising platform, you can catch the floor on the way up from the jump, allowing you to continuously jump over and over in a short span. Each one of these jumps generates a bit of speed and eventually allows you to clip through doors or access areas otherwise inaccessible. This trick is a staple of shorter runs that allow you to complete the game in under 70 stars, but is actually banned in 70 star and doesn't save much time in 120. Chaining long jumps also has a very interesting property on slopes. If you long jump onto a slope and continue holding Z, you'll be able to instantly jump as you hit the slope. Usually you'll be forced to wait a bit before jumping, but not with this technique. This is useful in a few places, and can be incredibly fast as walking up slopes can be very slow. The side flip is the trickiest jump and can stump some people at first. First you need to gain enough speed. Then tilt the control stick back a direction vaguely opposite of the initial one. You'll see an animation of Mario skidding to a halt and turning around. If you jump during this animation, you'll side flip. However, this jump is far more versatile than just jumping in the opposite direction. You can change the direction of the side flip by inputting a third direction on the control stick during the turnaround animation. This allows you to side flip forwards or sideways or really any direction, giving quick access to a very high jump. If you'd rather jump at an angle more opposite of the initial direction, you can immediately input the A press the first frame the turnaround animation starts. However, there are very specific situations where waiting for more of the turnaround animation to occur can be beneficial outside of just adjusting your angle. The longer you let the turning animation play, the closer you get to your target before jumping. This allows you to get a little closer to the edge to get the max distance from your side flip. Again, this is a very tricky jump to explain, and you'll need to play around with it to fully grasp how it works. This jump also has a strange interaction where you can delay your double jump quite significantly afterwards. This is mainly used to change your angle slightly while maintaining your ability to double jump. In a cramped area, some people struggle to build the speed for a good side flip, but speed can be built up moving in a different direction, then transferred to the one you want. Unless you're standing on a tiny island, there's almost always room to sideflip. Backflipping is performed by holding crouch and pressing A while standing still, but is used extremely rarely in runs, and for good reason. Don't be tempted to use this very slow option and find some other movement to do the job instead, usually a side flip. Finally, the wall jump. This jump is performed by pressing A within 5 frames of hitting a wall from most states of jumping or falling. To initiate a wall jump, you need to have a certain amount of speed into the wall. All 5 frames have their own properties, but basically the earlier you wall jump, the faster you move away from the wall. A wall jump on the first frame is called the firstie, and is very useful for some tricks. However, many times it can actually mess you up as it propels you away from the wall at a very high speed. In the beginner route, the frame that you wall jump on isn't too precise, but there are many situations where you prefer to go slower or faster. An interesting thing about wall jumps is they'll actually go a little higher on the wall than the initial point you wall jump from. This is very useful for getting that little bit of extra height you need for a ledge grab. This is particularly useful after a triple jump, as you can't grab a ledge after them unless you wall jump. You typically can't do this if you get a firstie, so try to wall jump a little late. Now we're moving on to the B button. The punch is a very fast option for picking up enemies and items, as well as damaging some in rare situations. Punches also move Mario forward a little bit, and can be used for specific spacing if walking isn't precise enough. Punches can usually only be used while standing still or moving slowly, as it will turn into a dive at a certain speed. However, there's a property in this game called holding neutral that can bypass this. While Mario is moving at a high speed, you can still do punches and kicks by moving the stick back to a centered position for a split second before and during your B press. Doing this with a punch is very easy, but doing it with a kick, called the speed kick, is extremely advanced and not recommended for beginners. Another quick thing to mention is that you can cancel your punch. If you press the B button and then hold the direction too soon, your punch won't come out. This means it can seem like you grabbed a box, but in reality you didn't let the full punch animation come out. The punch combo is performed by pressing B 3 times in a row, and is completely useless. Don't ever do this. The kick can be broken into 2 different actions. A grounded kick is performed by pressing B at the same time as A or while A is held. Kicks can typically only be used while standing still or moving slowly, as it will turn into a dive at a certain speed without using the aforementioned speed kick technique. As mentioned previously, a grounded kick is used very commonly to initiate a double or triple jump, as it is often the quickest way to do so. Kicks are also popular to accelerate Mario from a standstill. This can be good to bring you up to full speed, as kicks give a small speed boost, but it's still not faster than a long jump, so it's only used when the spacing works better. The grounded kick also has a very important property on slopes. If you hold the A button and press B in a certain rhythm while ascending a slope, it can give you just enough speed to continue moving uphill. This is called a silly kick. The rhythm differs depending on steepness, as steeper slopes reduce forward speed much faster than flatter ones. If you press B too fast, you'll gain too much speed and dive. Too slow and you'll lose all forward momentum and slide back down. I should also mention that some slopes simply can't be silly kicked on, even if they look like they can. An aerial kick is done by pressing B in the air after performing a single or double jump, but only if Mario's forward speed is relatively low. Interestingly enough, Mario will perform a dive after all of the other jumps or after falling off a ledge, even if holding neutral or even moving backwards. The aerial kick is especially useful for getting that extra bit more distance or height you need to make a jump. However, this can be very tricky, as moving slightly too fast can result in a dive instead. You want to time your directional inputs to hold backwards right before you kick, losing just enough speed to not dive to your death. Kicking after a double jump also has the interesting property of altering Mario's falling state. Instead of being able to triple jump after landing from his double jump, the aerial kick ensures he will do another double jump after instead. This is known as kick stalling and can be useful in some places where chaining together multiple double jumps is more beneficial than using a triple jump. However, you can't grab a ledge after kicking, so make sure you don't accidentally kick for a little more height when going for a ledge. While we're on this topic, kicks are frequently used alongside dives and rollouts to skip ledge grabs and pole grabs, as they restrict you from grabbing anything. This is most frequently used when entering a pipe, cannon, or some level entrances. If you walk into the opening, you can even dive as you cross the gap, walking the other side and saving yourself a ledge grab. A simple mechanic worth mentioning is that kicks, dives, ground pounds, and wall jumps all reset your falling distance, so doing them close to the ground will mitigate fall damage you would have normally taken. The dive is extremely useful and basically the fastest way to get around. It's performed by pressing B while moving at a moderate to high speed on the ground or in the air. This speed requirement is disregarded after performing a side flip, triple jump, wall jump, or walking off a ledge, causing the B button to prompt a dive regardless of Mario's speed. Dives increase Mario's speed substantially, far above what his standard run speed is. When using triple jumps to cross large gaps, you very often will dive after executing the triple. You can press A and B at the same time to get a triple jump dive, but it actually takes you a bit further if you dive a few frames after inputting the jump. The second part of the dive is the rollout. Mario gets put into a sliding animation after diving until he hits 0 speed and gets himself up, or until you press A or B to roll out, which is much faster obviously. However, this A or B press should optimally be on the exact frame Mario hits the ground. The longer you slide on your stomach, the more speed you'll lose. Getting a perfectly timed rollout will not kick up dust from the ground like others, so it is called the dustless dive. Getting frame perfect inputs consistently is a tough task, and pressing the button even a frame early means you won't roll out at all, losing a ton of speed. To compensate, we use a specific button pressing technique. For every rollout, you press B, then quickly roll your thumb to A, or vice versa. This gives you twice the chances to hit a dustless rollout, and the second button press makes sure you won't accidentally miss the rollout by pressing the first button too early. I can't stress how important doing this is, even in the early stages of speedrunning. Improving the timing on your rollouts is one of the best ways to lower your overall time. Another important trick with rollouts is doing them off ledges. For whatever reason, this puts you into a falling state that doesn't allow you to take fall damage. This means you can fall from whatever height you want and still hit the ground safely, without having to take the time to kick or dive at the bottom. Keep in mind that you can't do anything else from this state either, not even dive or kick. Rollouts have a weird interaction with slopes, specifically ones with steepness that Mario can walk on freely. If you roll out up these slopes, the rollout gets cancelled, but you keep the speed it gives for a while. This means it's actually beneficial to initiate a dive, then immediately roll out. This will give you an explosive burst of speed, carrying you up the slope extremely quickly. To do this, you want to press B then A one frame apart, or as close as you can manage. However, these rollout cancels aren't always great. If you dive onto a slope, then roll your thumb from A to B or vice versa to roll out, the first press inputs the rollout, then the second press will input a jump or dive. In the case of the jump, this can actually kill you, as jumping off a slope locks you to a specific arc. More on this later. To avoid this, try to only press one or the other after diving onto a slope. This actually also applies to diving onto stairs. It's hard to get rid of the habit of rolling your thumb, but there's really only a couple places in the route you need to keep this in mind. A breakdance, for lack of a better term, is performed by crouching and pressing B. It's entirely useless. The Slidekick is very niche, but it has a wide variety of specific uses. It's performed in the same way as a long jump, but with B instead of A. It's used in a few situations where the star is very close to the ground and a ground pound can't be used to pick it up. It's also the most optimal way to kill piranha plants, and can be optimal for traveling short distances from a standstill. There's also a very advanced technique called the speed Slidekick, which is pretty much frame perfect, but can conserve a massive amount of speed from sliding down a slope. Still, the Slidekick is very rarely used overall. Ground pounding has many uses, and not usually for squishing things as you'd expect. The ground pound basically turns Mario into an invincible ball of death from the moment you press Z in the air until the moment he lands. He damages anything he comes in contact with at basically any point in the animation, including the flip at the beginning. This is very useful for killing certain enemies and breaking boxes. However, by far the most common use of the ground pound is collecting stars. If you come in contact with a star at any point during a ground pound, you'll instantly cancel the animation, but keep all downwards momentum. This means that ground pounding just below a star is the fastest way to collect it. This works because Mario's hitbox moves slightly upwards during the flip. This trick also applies to stars that spawn out of a box or when enemies are defeated. If you know the spawn point of the star, you can ground pound on top of it, or optimally, just under it, to collect it as fast as possible. There is one more property worth mentioning, even if it's used very rarely. If Mario breaks a box by ground pounding on top of it, it counts as him landing and allows him to fall like normal after the box breaks. This means you can double jump or dive afterwards, cancelling the long landing animation of the ground pound. Ledge grabbing is done when you jump to a ledge or slowly walk off the edge of a surface. When on the ledge, you can do one of three things. Pressing up will get up slowly. This is only used in very specific places. Pressing A will quickly get up, which is used much more frequently. Pressing down or Z will drop Mario down. Z is the faster of the two. There are some ledges in this game whose hitboxes stick through other barriers. This means you can seemingly grab a ledge through the ceiling. One important thing to note about ledge grabs is that Mario's hitbox doesn't make any sense at all. His model is down here, but his actual hitbox is up on the ledge. This means that enemies can push you off the ledge even sooner than you think, and that you can clip into a specific wall in an infamous trick in Whomp's Fortress. A lot of people assume mashing A would be the fastest way to swim, but a rhythm is actually required to maintain max speed. It might not look that important, but believe me when I say you can lose a ton of speed if you don't swim well. Here's the correct rhythm. You can tell when you're doing it right when you hear this deep sound. Here's what it sounds like when your timing's off. To exit the water, you need to be at the surface and holding down on the stick. The angle Mario jumps out at is dependent on the angle he's pointing, not the angle of the stick, so try not to extend him fully upwards before jumping. There's some terrain and objects that interact differently with your movement options. Slopes are very hard to get used to in SM64. Jumping on steep slopes locks your jump angle and can eat a lot of your speed. In addition, jumping on these steep slopes makes the B button prompt a dive regardless of your speed. The other terrain I want to talk about is sand. It's not too different if you play perfectly, but losing your speed in the sand makes it extremely hard to move, leaving most beginners to just spam A and lose tons of time. The best way to regain your speed is to hold A and press B in a rhythm. Eventually you'll gain enough speed to dive again, and you can just continue your movement as usual. If you fall into sand or snow from high up, you might get stuck. What some people don't know is you'll get up faster if you mash A relatively quickly. The camera in this game takes some getting used to, but it works very well in the speedrun once you get it down. There are two camera styles, Lakitu Cam and Mario Cam, and you can switch between them with R. For each of these styles, there is also a zoomed in and a zoomed out version that is accessed with C up or C down. There's also a fully zoomed version that forces Mario to stand still, which is really only used to get in the wing cap stage. Most of the time running this game will be spent in Lakitu Cam. This camera is somewhat inconsistent, behaving differently in different stages, sometimes even swapping behaviors in a single stage. Most of the time it uses what I like to call static cam. This means that the camera won't auto-adjust if you stand still or move sideways and backwards. This makes movement strats very consistent as you'll always be pushing the same direction. However, in stages like JRB, BBH, HMC, SL, DDD, and certain parts of other stages, it will slowly pan around to face the same direction as Mario. I call this dynamic cam. This can be useful in some cases, as you can face Mario left or right for a second, then tap forward to adjust the camera slightly. Mario Cam behaves more like the dynamic Lakitu Cam I mentioned, but it's consistent across every stage. The zoomed in version also follows Mario's direction much more tightly, making it useful in situations when you're making sharp turns. Oftentimes, Lakitu Cam will get stuck on a wall or object and be unable to move any further. Mario Cam is far less likely to be obstructed and is frequently used in situations like this. If you fall a large distance, the camera will likely lag behind you. You can fix this by simply pressing R twice quickly. It'll snap the camera right to you. There are also a couple places in this game where you'll enter an area and the camera is facing in the wrong direction. Switching to Mario Cam right as the screen starts to transition from black will swing the camera around completely. This only works if you press it really early. You can even press it while the screen is still black. While we're talking about cameras, I'll quickly talk about something called lag reduction. The N64 console can have trouble rendering some large objects or small details, and the game's frame rate can drop substantially. You can manipulate the camera to face away from these objects to de-render them. This basically doesn't save any time on emulator or VC. There's also a small amount of lag when you save the game after each star or key. At these prompts, it saves a bit of time to scroll down twice and select continue and don't save. This can save close to 10 seconds in the longer runs. It might not seem like it saves time, but there's a short period where you can scroll but it doesn't let you select an option. So with proper timing of your down inputs, you don't lose any time scrolling at all. Surprisingly, this does actually save a little bit of time on emulator and VC, but it's such a minimal amount, it's not really worth it as slight timing errors will lose you more time than you'll save. Finally, I want to expand on the concept of holding neutral. Letting your stick go back to the neutral position is a key aspect of this game even outside of speed kicks and running punches. When you're moving out of control in the opposite direction you want to go, holding that direction will actually make you lose control even more. However, if you hold neutral as you land, you'll stop in place, then be able to move freely again. When diving, holding neutral will instantly stop your movement instead of grinding to a halt. In fact, basically anytime you land on the ground, you can hold neutral to cancel all your momentum. The concept of holding neutral is very important in understanding this game's movement, as Mario can very easily feel floaty and slippery if you're constantly holding the direction you want to move. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're unclear on anything in this video, or you need help with SM64 in general, I'm more than happy to help in my Discord server or Twitch chat. I stream 3 to 4 days a week with a 10 to 12 hour stream every Saturday. If you guys enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate a like, comment, or subscription. I'd love to do some more specific guides on certain strats, and showing your support would give me the motivation I need. Thanks again.